Angelica Paradas is one of 60 million Mexicans, roughly half the country's population, that live in poverty. She lives with several thousand other homeless citizens here in a stretch of crude dwellings on the outskirts of Tijuana, shacks constructed of cardboard or scrap wood or anything else that can be nailed together. There's no plumbing here, and what electricity there is borrowed from the city's main power grid. Angelica says her dream has always been to live in a real home someday.
Sí, nosotros soñamos con eso. Ojalá Dios nos ayude. De Dios, que Dios hace milagros.
Miracles, some say, began to happen here back in 2001, when Mexico's government and global investors, including the World Bank, launched a billion-dollar housing boom across Mexico, providing easy credit to Mexico's factory workers for brand new affordable homes. Homes for an estimated 20 million people, 1/6 of Mexico's population. But that boom today, many say, is one huge bust. Many of these same dwellings today unrecognizable, without electricity, power grids breaking down. Well water, the main source for many of these developments, has run out, and rivers of raw sewage run through many of these neighborhoods. And millions of homeowners here are nowhere near paying off these tiny casitas, some as small as 325 square feet. Nowhere near paying them off because of massive interest rates on their loans. All this happening in housing developments across the country. A scandal exposed in an in-depth investigation by the Los Angeles Times. The Times reporting that Mexican authorities have failed to hold anyone accountable for the problems, specifically private builders here that have made billions building these homes. Among these companies, Casa Gio, Urbi, and Homex, one of Mexico's biggest builders. The LA Times reports that Homex received tens of millions of dollars worth of construction bonds to make repairs and finish infrastructure at developments like these, but that the funds remain unused or unaccounted for, and that to date there have been no congressional hearings or fact-finding commissions in Mexico to hold anyone accountable for Mexico's affordable housing program going so terribly wrong. And perhaps more disturbing, Homex has received billions of dollars in investment funds from the World Bank, Wall Street investment banks, university endowments, foundations, and U.S. pension funds. Homex was said to be worth $100 million when it went public in 2004. The value then soared to $3 billion. The big returns, however, masked the flaws that eventually gutted Mexico's ambitious effort to house the masses, helping trigger the collapse of the housing industry and Homex filing for bankruptcy. Builders like Homex that residents say are now nowhere to be found to fix shoddy construction and failing infrastructure. Like here at this development called Palma Real, built by Homex, says homeowner Hector Gonzalez, who moved here 5 years ago when his employer gave him credit to buy a home here.
Pues en fábrica.
¿Qué haces?
Pañales.
This is the entrance to Hector's housing development today. This burned out wreck has been sitting here, he says, for almost a year. But that's not all.
Todas las luces, los postes de luces, las lámparas ya no sirven, ya las quitaron.
This place at night is not a safe place to be, says homeowner Leonor Herrera.
No, pues mire, aquí se me hace muy inseguro todo. La inseguridad está muy fea. Para allá ha habido ya varios muertitos acá atrás de las casas de nosotros, entonces sí hace falta vigilancia y que la policía ande echando vueltas aquí que se ofrece. Y como estamos como abandonados, ahora sí que abandonados, sí. La verdad, el agua se nos da mucho, son las prioridades, ¿verdad? El agua, las casas se están, cualquier clavito y se están despegando ya.
As for construction and the materials used here, the walls here, she says, seem like they're paper thin.
Pero pues, por ejemplo, fíjese, la bardita es la de 2 casas, o sea, todo se escucha, gritos, plática, todo se oye. Y pues muy mal.
Homeowner Roxana Figueroa at this Homex-built community in Ensenada shows me this huge section of the street that collapsed almost 8 years ago and has gone unrepaired.
No, en toda la República es lo mismo, no nomás aquí. Si va usted a Veracruz, a Los Cabos, a Tijuana, donde sea es la misma. Es la misma problemática que tienen.
Roxana says she's most concerned about the raw sewage here, what residents refer to as black water or agua negra.
Las aguas negras son las que salen de sus casas sanitarias. Es que no hay drenaje, tiene que salir por algún lado, porque Omex no hizo las cosas bien. Estas son las aguas negras que vienen de allá, de arriba, de las casas. Pura agua contaminada. Y ahí está la escuela y por aquí pasan los niños y las mamás.
The electric grid here, she says, fails to provide power on many days, making the internet difficult to access for her daughter, Geneva, who needs it for school.
¿Es difícil para hijos aquí, hijas?
Sí,
Explica, ¿por qué?
porque pues no hay integridad, no hay seguridad, no hay luz. Y lo demás, las escuelas, el drenaje, todos los olores van para allá donde comen los niños. No hay agua para bañarse, para las cosas que nos piden, para lavar el uniforme y cosas así. El internet tampoco hay aquí.
No hay internet.
No, no hay internet. Y pues batallamos mucho para las tareas y trabajos de la escuela.
Roxana says this community is not the special place Homex promised her when she first bought her home here.
Yo llegué a este fraccionamiento hace 8 años. Cuando llegamos a este fraccionamiento, pues nos prometieron. Este fraccionamiento nos lo vendieron como el fraccionamiento que Ensenada estaba esperando. Oh my God. Aquí almacenamos el agua, porque no tenemos agua. Así vivimos, buscando en qué almacenarlo el agua. Uno ilusionado de tener su casita, pues se encharcó, como uno dice. Se endeudó para tener una casa, para darle a la familia, a los hijos. Y cuando nos dieron esta casa, pues le abrías a la llave y salía agua. Supuestamente estaba con todos los servicios y dijimos, pues órale, está bien. Solamente había 3 calles terminadas cuando yo me vine a vivir aquí. Salía agua, teníamos luz. Al paso del tiempo, como a los, ¿qué será?, al mes, nos dimos cuenta que nos daban la luz por medio de plantas. Y nos explicaron que era porque no estaba terminado el fraccionamiento y todavía no había contrataciones de la CFE, de la Comisión Federal de Electricidad. Entonces, ya se empezó a venir más gente, a construir más casas y de repente se venían los bajones de luz y por las mismas plantas, hasta que tuvimos que secuestrar a uno de los encargados de aquí de Omex para poder que nos pusieran la luz.
Roxana says the original loan on her home was $20,000, or about 345,000 pesos.
Un solo cuarto. A mí me salió en 345,000 pesos. 2008. Y pues nunca pagas, yo todavía estoy pagando los intereses hace 8 años y debo como 370, debo más de lo que me costó la casa por los intereses y lo pagas, te endeudas con Infonavit. Infonavit es la que te presta ese dinero para que tú pagues y tú le estás pagando. Infonavit te está descontando cada semana vía nómina.
¿Qué es eso? Agua.
Sí, es el pipero el que vende el agua. Que no tenemos agua.
Arriving just now, the twice weekly delivery of water most homeowners must now pay for on their own, because the water well that was once the source of water here has dried up.
No, no es broma. No estamos jugando. No es broma.
Well, and writing is good, and writing is beautiful.
Freddie Barboza, a resident of this Homex development in Tijuana, is a dual national Mexican U.S. citizen born in Jalisco State, Mexico, who works in construction in the U.S. and commutes here. He describes the size of a typical family home here as cramped and no place to raise growing children.
Like, look, these two little kids, they're never gonna be able to use their imagination, build something, because there's no room. The houses, they don't have no room. They're like, you're so limited, like 10 by 10, and that's about it, or stuff like that. There's no place to grow.
His wife Elizabeth is a factory worker here in Tijuana who, like most homeowners, bought her home on credit through her employer. Her company withholds almost half her pay each week that goes toward paying off the home loan. The price of her house was $20,000 when she bought it almost 10 years ago. But because of high interest rates, she has paid, she says, very little toward her principal.
She works on an assembly place, and she gets like 500 pesos taken from her check every week. Every week, and she makes 1,200 pesos. 1,200 pesos, $100 is 1,800 pesos.
So less than $100.
So she makes less than $100 a week, working 10 hours, 5 days a week.
And is she making any progress on paying it off?
No, not really. You're stuck. They got you the bad way. There's no way around it.
Freddie says many of the neighbors here were so in debt they simply gave up paying on their loans and abandoned the homes. Homes that have since been taken over by squatters.
Like if you turn your camera around, let's focus on this house. Look, next to that this car. Look at what the curtain is falling. It's right there against. That person doesn't have electricity, doesn't have water. Why? Because he's not paying. He just came in and invade the house.
He's living there free?
Free, living for free. There's a bunch of people doing that all over the place. These people are the ones that bring the crimes.
Freddie's dual national neighbor, Tony Madrigal, works in Tijuana as a counselor to Mexicans recently deported from the U.S. Tony says he blames the builders of these developments for the shape that they're in, and he blames the government, he says, for not forcing the builders to fix them. He also faults government-backed lenders for charging massive interest rates, making it, he says, almost impossible to ever pay off the homes.
I would say it's the government, and I would say also it's a scam, because all these houses are provided to working people, as you said, and we always have to keep working and working. You take around almost 30 years to pay one of these houses when they're not even worth it that much.
30 years to pay off homes originally costing only $20,000.
So this right here, what you see right here, this is an abandoned house, People used to live here. People used to live here, have their families. I remember that house. I remember people living right there in the house. So they had a family, they had kids.
A lot of people that use drug users, they use these places to come and they have needles. There's little kids that they could be playing with needles.
The two men say garbage pickup was part of the deal promised to homeowners here when they bought their homes, but they say it's almost non-existent.
We have to pay 70 pesos a month so they can check our trash. See this trash right here? They have to come and pick it up on Wednesday, and they didn't pick it up. Today's Saturday, today's another day they have to pick it up, and they never picked it up.
They don't come, and they have trash. This fence, see how short the fence is? You just take your trash and throw it on the other side and take a look at all the stuff that is on the back outside here.
We have no water. There's no water to wash my dishes. See? There's no water at all.
Yeah, how do you wash your clothes? What do you?
Well,
A truck comes? I hear some people get trucks.
Yeah, well, they get truck, but we don't really use that. So I go to other. I visit one of my families.
Residents say thieves several months ago stole water pumps that were supposed to pump water from a huge water tank on this hill for residents.
What does the government tell you?
They're gonna send somebody to go open the pump, and they will never do nothing.
One local Homex office we approached here in Baja, California, we discovered was abandoned. We've also reached out to the headquarters of Homex in Sinaloa, but have received no response to our questions. Homex, in a statement to the LA Times, said it has since strengthened internal control mechanisms to improve its corporate governance practices. It's also been reported that Homex has been suing homeowners in court if they complain. And some residents say they've become afraid to speak out.
They're scared. If you raise your voices, you're gonna get killed. You know what happened with the 40, ¿cuántos niños eran?
Iguala.
Yeah, exactly, Iguala.
Tony says he fears that what happened in Iguala, Mexico, the disappearance of 43 college students protesting for a better life, could start happening, he fears, with homeowners here who complain.
I don't want to raise my voice and tell the government, you know what? You're a piece of whatever and this and that. And if I turn around, they're gonna send a cop for me and kill me.
Desgraciadamente, México es el número 1 en corrupción. Es triste decirlo, pero así es.
Roxana Figueroa in Ensenada says she and her sister have been activists among homeowners who have been demanding for years that Homex fix the water and sewage problems here at their development called Puerto Azul. Roxana says the only thing Homex officials have tried to do is bribe her and others for their silence. Bribes she says she immediately rejected.
A mí me ofrecieron casa, carro, y que me hacían una casa de 2 plantas. Antes, cuando estaban los ingenieros, sí nos ofrecieron. Sí ha habido negociaciones, sí ha habido personas que se les han acercado y las han querido comprar para callarlas y para que no se haga público esto.
There's no law,
New resident here, Nayeli Cisneros, questions whether this Homex development in Tijuana will be any safer than the life she and her daughters have just fled in Acapulco, where her husband, a taxi driver, was murdered.
Nobody knows why. They shot him in the head. And the police told me that they couldn't go pick his body up because the police station didn't know which section it belongs to. So they didn't go pick up his body. They told me to take his body to my house and bury it.
Pero ya no puede callar a la gente, ya esto es más público que nada. Ya han venido bastantes personas, ya han venido bastantes medios y ya se ha hecho público. Gracias a eso, por eso está usted aquí.
1 week after the LA Times housing story was published, Homex hired a crew of laborers to start cleaning up the entrance at one of its developments here in Ensenada.
¿Por el Homex o por particular? ¿Por Homex?
Es buen empleo, la verdad, y pues estamos remodelando aquí todo lo que es de limpieza, estamos juntando basura y todo eso para tener una mejor colonia. Tiene una semana que comenzó el proyecto este y pues es un buen proyecto porque pues para las personas es lo que faltaba, la limpieza.
Yo creo que por eso están aquí, de tanta presión y hacer tanto público.
Por Homex.
Homex guard Paulino Rodriguez Blanco says his employer may be finally getting the message that something needs to be done to fix infrastructure issues and finish building homes that were never completed in the first place.
Estas casas no las entregó Homex cuando las hizo. La compañía esa no las entregó, entonces como no estaba terminado el drenaje, no había agua, no las pudieron vender. Pero pienso que es culpa de...
Roxana Figueroa says after years of homeowners feeling abandoned and having to fix things and clean up their communities themselves, there is a little bit of cautious optimism that perhaps builders like Homex may finally start making things right. Although Roxana says she's not holding her breath.
Parece que ahorita al final dicen que después de la oscuridad se ve la luz y parece ser que ahorita Homex quiere arreglar las cosas. Parece ser que ahorita quieren arreglar las cosas. Ojalá y se diera eso porque ya no nos han engañado una, sino muchísimas veces.